All right. We recording? Let's see. Yep. All right. This has been a long time coming. I've always been told, close friends and family, just random folks who I've met, like, why don't you friends, why don't you guys make content? You guys need a podcast. You guys need to do this. You guys need to make t-shirts. You guys need, like, whatever the hell it is, we've been told we need to make something, right? And frankly, I haven't done it because of laziness, being camera shy, just frankly not wanting to or not wanting to put forth the effort. That said, never stop being opinionated, right? I'll go to war with people in the comments, right? I love having constructive dialogue. And that's kind of what brought me here. Because over the years, I've had, I don't know, 3, 4, or 5 different topics to where I'm like, oh, that's going to be the good intro. That's going to be the good start. That's going to be the catchy, clickbaity title you can do for your first YouTube video, right? You're gonna lure in an audience, and frankly, it just wasn't organic enough, right? So that said, I typed something the other day on a Facebook forum, on a Facebook page. I mean, it might have been like a Kevin Samuels page, and there's all those memes about basically it's like the woman with the really grandiose kind of perceptions of what she thinks her man should be like willing to pay for and do and accommodate. Meanwhile, she's got like a ton of kids and like a fridge full of like no groceries and like a stack of bills on the fucking kitchen counter and stuff. So it's one of those memes, right? And I just kind of like shared a small experience I've had that's relatable. And granted, this is a 10-year experience. It's before TikTok. It's before COVID. This is like almost of times long ago, just compared to what's happened in the last 6 or 7 years, or 6 to 10 years. And it kind of garnered a good amount of responses, right? And one of the brothers in the section in the comments asked, he said, "Oh, do you have a podcast?" And I'm like, damn, if I had $1 for every time somebody asked me if I had a podcast, I'd have like $98 or something. But I'm like, fuck it. This is going to be the intro, right? So I'm starting the podcast, not even the podcast. I'm starting the channel. I don't give a shit where this goes. I don't even have a name for it. I'm just jumped on QuickTime. We're trying to do one cut. I can't even see myself in focus on camera, so bear with me, and I ramble. But that said, we're going to talk about my concept of what I call protecting your meat, protecting your money, energy, attention, and time. And this was directed initially towards men, right? I'm talking about men. I'm 39 years old, so I'm talking about men like how I was a little bit lost, 23, 24, up until maybe whatever 30ish or so. But I realized in wanting to make this video, it applies to kind of equally everybody. It's not like gender bearing or age restrictive. It kind of applies to anybody. It's just most of the concepts I'm talking about have kind of they apply to men mostly, because like obviously I'm a man, black man at that. But I always try to, if I'm gonna do something like this, I want it to be broad and general enough to where, yeah, I might touch on something that is directed towards or is specific towards black men, but like really these are lessons as a whole for just like young folks, right? And like as a man, I have more wisdom that I can give to us because women got their own lane. So 5-minute ramble intro over with. Protecting your meat, right? And it starts with protecting your money, right? And that said, Big Boy from Outkast said, it's not what you make, but it's what you spend. So when you're young in the game, whatever the hell it is, slow motion's better than no motion, right? Be careful what you do to make money. Be careful what you spend money on. Be careful who you spend money with. E40, one of my favorites. I'm from the Bay. E40 from the Bay. He said something that stuck with me ever since I was really little, and it was don't buy no $80,000 car before you buy a house. Self-explanatory. Somebody in the comments was like, oh, you need to adjust that for inflation. I'm like, don't let that undermine the lesson, though, right? You don't always have to do the low-hanging fruit, pick at this. I just hone in on, let me find the chink in the armor. You know what I mean? That's like somebody who's, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you're complaining about the crack in the foundation of a fucking mansion in Malibu. It's like, don't, let's not undermine the fact that that nigga's in a mansion, right? So, you know, whether we're adjusting it for inflation or not, don't buy an $80,000 car before you buy a house. Makes sense, right? And even deeper than that, I'm gonna break each one of these down, all these concepts down in sub videos, but I ramble, so I'm gonna try to do it quickly. But my point is, we live in a time right now where fame can easily outrun and quickly exceed your wealth. We live in an era of clout chasing. You know, people do dumb shit for money. Or they do dumb shit thinking money's gonna follow. The money never comes. But you know, going viral doesn't always come with the pile. You could be famous and still broke. So that said, protect your perception of money, protect how you make it, protect how you spend it, and who you spend it with. And if you don't define money, it'll define you, right? Sounds corny, but it is the truth. Lessons that you'll learn, and lessons that you want to hear. Second of all, energy. Protect your energy, right? When I say energy, I'm talking about your effort and your focus. If something really interests you, you'll find the time and energy for it, right? That's your sign there. I'm focused on this. I'm waking up with this on my mind. I want to go do that, right? So make sure that you're focused on the right things. Protect your interests. Protect these focus. We're talking about some primal shit, right? From not that long ago. Back in the day, our ancestors didn't really have a lot of energy to waste, right? Limited daylight, right? Once the sun went down, it got dangerous, right? So your survival kind of depended. It depended on how you spent your energy, right? Modern man's a little bit different, right? We've replaced running from lions with deadlines, right? So if you're dealing with anything that drains you and leaves you feeling without a purpose, that's your inner voice saying, like, bro, this ain't it, right? So if you're doing something that is demanding too much time and at the end of said time is leaving you unfulfilled, that's a waste of your attention, right? So next, we're going to move on time. Hold on. Attention. Are we in order? I might have to edit this. No. Okay, now we're on attention. Okay. So, attention is the first cousin of entertainment, right? You got to ask yourself, what are you letting entertain you? Your attention has value. Your attention has a lot of value, right? Your attention has as much value as you think you're worth. So, that said, if you are making X amount per hour, right? That is what your attention span is worth. So dissect that by however many minutes, seconds of the day you might have spent wasting your attention span, right? That's how you should be slicing down your time. That's how you should be slicing down, your percentages of the day, your percentages of the hour, your percentages of that afternoon, right? Everything needs to be used to your advantage and to the best of it. And sometimes that might mean doing nothing, right? That might very well mean you sitting up, doing nothing, smoking a blunt, maybe taking a nap, right? Eating good food, going to the gym, whatever it is make sure that you're not doing that in replacement of something that's more worthy of your attention, right? Your attention has value, right? I'm not going to say that it's a conspiracy theory, but through evolution, it's almost like we've, developed a shorter but quicker attention span, right? So the attention span is shorter, but perhaps maybe your decision making is more agile, right? So the question should be, how do you make sure this isn't working against you? How are you structuring your day, right? How are you protecting your mind? How are you controlling what gets your attention before it can control you, right? That's why your intention's important, right? So MEA. So we've done the money, we've done the energy, we've done the attention. We're at time. Time is the umbrella, right? It's what keeps your money, energy, and attention from getting soaked, right? All of that together is meat. Money, energy, attention, and time. Time's the most important, though, right? People like to say, as the saying goes, time is money. But time is finite, right? You can make money back, energy you can recover, but time is gone once it's gone. Time is limited, right? There's people I can't see anymore that I would spend any amount of money to see again. So, in the hierarchy of money, energy, attention, of time, this is why I say that time is the umbrella, right? It's the overarching. Without, you're not gonna, trust fund babies might want to plug their ears, but like, with the exception of the select few, if you don't spend your time accordingly, the other three are gonna, good luck with those. So that said, uh, when you hear time is money, remember time is valuable. It's your rarest resource. Treat it like it. Um, I'm looking for constructive feedback in the comments because I'm, never been a good public speaker, but it's something I want to, build on. And more important, what I'm hoping to do from this post and the subsequent posts is I want to build a community of folks that are, looking to have thoughtful conversations, looking to share life experiences, looking to give constructive and real and accurate feedback. And then also, and more importantly, looking to talk shit and enjoy themselves and be a part of a community that I hope to grow, because I feel like I've got some, concepts and viewpoints and just kind of, some way of thought that hopefully can inspire people. And like, ultimately what I'm trying to do, and I hate rambling, but like, it's something I do a lot, is like, what I'm trying to do is ultimately get people inspired to seek and find role models and do whatever they can to kind of like cleanse whatever the fuck is keeping them, in a negative kind of like that doldrum cycle, because it's getting really easy to do that. It's only getting easier to get bogged down with stuff through social media. This kind of started about with, whatever. News back in the day first getting sensationalized. I think this was in like the 50s or whatever, but it hasn't stopped. So we live in a crazy era right now of like basically propaganda and things that are basically microwaving your feelings, right? And getting you to, you know, give these knee jerk reactions on incredibly emotional and complex topics. And what I found, freedom and, kind of like refuge in is, Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius, and, like those folks. And also just realizing that your attention span is only so big as a human being, right? So I think we're in kind of a situation to where there's going to be 100 things, 200 things in a day that are occupying your attention span, right? So that means that you've got your attention span focused on 1% of 100 different things, which is impossible. So I think life should be simplified, as in how it was back in the day, before internet, before we had all this shit. Focus on what's important, whether that's family, career, God, sport, whatever the hell it is. Just focus on that, and then whatever you choose to, let, filter in. Those should be things that are aligned with protecting your meat. So that said, I'm done. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Peace out, and yeah.